So today I'm going to go over a few new features that are in the dev branch. They are not live yet, but they'll be live later in the week. So there, we need a database on the instance, and a database that we can grow with and that scales easily. So the database I chose to use is RethinkDB. So RethinkDB is a cloud database that stores JSON, and a key feature it has is that it can scale automatically. So one of the properties of this dev system is that I want to be able to bring up a second instance of the dev instance, and all the services on the instance should automatically start clustering. So we can have one definition of an instance in a pio.json file, and we can spawn multiple instances of this dev stack or production stack or whatever it may be, this technology stack. And as you clone a second instance with the same unique ID, it'll automatically start clustering all the services across those instances. So this database is actually very great in the sense that to add, when a new instance comes up, we simply ask it to join the previous instance and the data starts syncing. So this is a really nice database to start working with, and it's fast, it's built for the cloud, it's got all the sort of newer stuff in it, and it's got a very good query API. So this is the default database that's going to be on the instance, and I have built a little service to deploy it. So under scripts build, we just do a source build right now because the automated build, the automated install fails too often. So we just do our own source build and then ship our own binaries. And yeah, and then we start it. So it's basically we install it on the instance and run it. So I have started now to populate data in this database. And I believe that to work on this concept of this abstract system tree, we're going to be dealing with a lot of data. And I'm thinking that first, to move towards this abstract system tree, that various services on the instance are going to start dumping data into this database and start collecting various data and information that we can from the projects. And then once it's in the database, then we can see what we have and start writing queries to aggregate that information and so on. So that's sort of the first step, to have everything dump data into the database, and then we can hook up UI components to there. I'm thinking a lot of the initial UI components in Develop Companion are going to come with data that is coming from the database, so that we decouple a lot of the UI components from the individual services, and they would just work on somewhat cached data that's in the database. All right, so that's RethinkDB, and I'll show briefly how actually this next step. So the next piece we needed is to work in issue tracking, to work in user scopes and so on. We now need an authorization scheme that includes us to be able to log into GitHub. So that's now live on the instance, and if I can find my other terminal here, I can show how this now opens. So if we have a new, if we have an instance and we go pio open, it'll open the instance. It'll initialize everything, and is it on this one? Must be the dev comp. One sec. So pio open. So when you open it, what's wrong there now? Dev comp, no data received. Okay, one sec. PIO. So this is shut down. We just go PIO info, take the SSH, log in, go to OPT logs, and the service that's failing for us looks like what's on port 813, though that's PIO server.log. Okay, maybe it's the auth one. Okay, and if this doesn't work, then we can just skip this demo. No data received. So what is it actually trying to call? Okay, I guess this is not going to work. That's too bad. Reply. Okay. I don't know. Must have, well, it was still in dev. So anyway, if we go PIO open on the other one, on the inception one, okay, and then if we go and look at the rethink DB, so we can go now into IO pinfdb rethink DB, and so I'm just about to hook up all this admin. So all being able to go to these services and so on will all happen from the admin system. So this is the admin system that you're seeing here that I'm about to skin, and then everything will start coming together once it's on there. Okay, so I can put in IODB, IOPinfDB, RethinkDB, and RethinkDB is now in the instance, and this is the admin system. So the admin system gets proxied through the admin proxy, so authentication is automatically handled. So once you're authenticated in the admin, you now have the full RethinkDB tool. So this is a very common pattern where a lot of third-party tools come with their own admin systems. So the idea is that we can proxy all the admin systems, secure them, and then now, bit by bit, start querying these admin systems directly instead of having users go to these admin systems. We just start querying them directly and pulling all the information into our nice organized admin system for our purposes. So this admin system is our one where we see only the information we want organized in the way we want, and that's where all this information will end up. And until that's the case, we can use sort of the individual services admin systems until we get there. So as a quick example for the data that's on this server, we can go r.db devcomp, and this is RethinkDB is really nice in terms of API. I've been playing with it a bit. Okay, so I guess I haven't provisioned everything on here, and it's too bad that the other one isn't working. But anyway, this is the point. We can now explore the data on this database, and it would be absolutely trivial now to write a few widgets, either that run in the admin system or in a Firefox extension or a Firebug extension that can start pulling data out of RethinkDB and show you what's in there. For instance, the list of databases and tables would be a very easy, simple widget that would already be quite useful for anybody running RethinkDB. So, so that's where the RethinkDB stuff is going. Okay, GitHub issue syncing. So the next thing is to get the issue tracker working, we have to start syncing issues. So I've implemented a new project called My Issues. So My Issues is a new project I'm starting, which allows you to aggregate issues that you have in various issue repositories into one space. And to do that is you declare multiple collectors. So you have My Issues collector for GitHub, and what the collector does is it uses the once you authenticate it in the admin here, it gets your access token, and then it can connect to GitHub and sync repository status. So the idea is that in, let's see, let me open DevComp here. So in Developer Companion at the bottom, we have the My Issues Collector GitHub service. We configure it to watch certain organizations, and we want these organizations to watch. So what this is going to do is, the first time this issues collector is going to run, it's going to register post-commit hooks or activity hooks to these repositories in these organizations. And then when notifications come in, it'll automatically start syncing changes. So to pick up, when you first start syncing a project, when nothing is provisioned on the database yet, the way this service is coded, and this is a pattern that I'm going to be following with a lot of services, that the idea is that everything can pick up from nothing and pick up from where it last left off. So when you first run this, it'll go through and start syncing all issues. And then once it's started syncing some issues, then it'll only sync new issues. And then the new issue sync can get triggered by events that are coming in here. And I'm going to be spending more time on how this is isolated and so on, because the way these services are coded is really critical. And the idea is that they're always forward-looking, always backwards compatible, and always can pick up from a previous point if they've run before. And that pattern is going to get in there. So this will now sync issues to the RethinkDB instance, and if we were on the other server, that doesn't work right now, we would see the issues in here already. So the last piece I have to do is just feed those issues to the UI here, and then once that cycle is complete, then we can easily build widgets that feed off RethinkDB and place into different categories and so on. So that's we're very close to that. All right, and then the last part that I want to get into that we can now start hacking and integrating a little bit more is the automated Firefox creation, Firefox profile creation. So there's a new service I started, and I was just in the process of integrating it into Firebug dev instance. So I'll show the service briefly, and then we'll go into the code. So under lib, there is two. I think Firefox is old. Yeah, I have to remove that. But profile is basically a service. So the profile service, so this is a Node.js service. I'm just going to scroll through it just so you see that it's not very large. So we can see some default preferences. We can, yeah, this is not too interesting. Extensions, write customer profile, start it, and so on. So that's it. So it's quite simple. And it'll be easy to now also get this working for Google Chrome. And the most important part is the API interface to interact with this. So if we go into test profile or Firefox, the easiest API is this. So you require the Firefox module, and then you can go Firefox open and you give it some preferences. So you want to say, I want to use a certain profile path, I want the home page to be this, I want these extensions, and I want these preferences. And the first time you call this, it'll actually create the profile, and then the second time it'll just reuse the existing profile. And that's it. And this whole thing runs. So if we can actually, let me go into it and we can actually run it. So if we go pio list, and then I can go pio test -- local, and I want to test the Firefox. Oop. So I run that, and as it's running, it's downloading code. The first time can take a while. I think I have it cached. And it's just copying it, right? So what it allows you to do, and I'll go through this again. So Firefox just popped up for me. Here, let me bring it down. So this is the automated test. So Firefox just popped up, and it's going to close itself again. Bam, closed, and now it's up to going to the next test. Bam, the next Firefox instance coming up. running, and once the test completes, then I just have it set to 15 seconds, and the next one. So this this is going through doing a few tests. Um, so this now shows how the whole service runs in isolation for developing the service. So we ran all the tests, everything is good. Now, what this actually did, and this is really interesting, and we can look at this here. So we go to Services, DevCom Tool, Firefox, Test. I'm just waiting for my... Come on. Wrong time for Sublime to hang. Come on. Nope. There, test, temp. Yeah, I'll just do it in here. Test. It doesn't show it. Wait, I'm going to kill Sublime and restart it. 1 second. Firebug, devcomp. This one. All right. So devcomp, services, devcomp tool, Firefox. I guess that's what happens when you run low on RAM. Come on. Okay, I just closed some windows. Let me kill it again. Can't wait to be able to edit on the instance. We're not far away from that. Okay, services, devcom tool, Firefox, and please refresh. What can I close? All right, let's see if that works better. Test. Oh, I know what you can do. Find in folder. Okay, I close that. Open. Oh, Sublime. Yeah, there's something really fishy going on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is just the Firefox service. So under temp, so in the profile, we're creating a few tests, and they're stored in temp, and then we have the different profiles. So the way a profile is created, and this is where the installer comes in. If you look at package.json, the installation writes a package.json file, and the package.json. So everything that the system touches, creates, whatever, always includes a package.json file. And the idea is that any anything it interacts with has a package.json file because that's the root point of entry to interact with any service or component. So it creates a package.json file with config, and then to map in the what it needs, we declare mappings. So in the mappings, you'll see that there's a couple of things here. So first of all, we declare browser. So we're saying that into the directory --.browsers Firefox 30 for platform Darwin, we want to download the Mozilla DMG, Firefox Mozilla DMG. And then also we declare, okay, these are the two extensions we want installed, so Firebug and FBTrace, and we want to put those into the extensions folder. And then this gets created by the profile script. Then it runs SMI install, which provisions everything, including in extensions, installs everything here, and in browsers, Firefox, here's the Firefox here. So it'll automatically download the DMG extracted, and so on. And then once everything is created, then it'll run the profile init on Firefox, and then everything gets created. And it'll also write the user preferences that we set. So that's the service. And now the interesting part is, how does this fit into the Firebug dev system? So if we look at Firebug, so we're going to open that again. Hopefully it's going to cooperate a little nicer this time. I think part of the problem is Sublime has issues with larger file trees. So once you start having larger file trees with browsers in there and so on, editors slow down, and this is a problem we'll have to overcome somehow. It will be overcome by the editor that comes with this stack, but yeah, large file trees are a problem. So tool CLI dev. Okay, so what I was working on is I created in, well, let's look at source tree and we can see the difference. Okay, so I've done a few things. In Activate, I created a new alias for profile. So before we had run to run the Firebug next. That was the test before. I think that still works. I haven't touched that, but yeah, that still works. Great. So here's Firefox. Okay, I'm going to leave that for now. So I added a second one called profile, and I'm linking it to services tools CLI dev profile. And in CLI dev profile, we'll go into that. All right. So that's that. Okay, so tool CLI dev profile. We have a profile.sh that gets called, and then that calls simply Node.js script, profile.js. And in profile.js, we're doing a couple of things. So this tool CLI dev package maps the Firefox service. Then in profile.js, I've started coding it out to provide a list. Okay, so let's go PIO and look at the profiles I've declared. So PIO.json in the service, and where these profiles are declared can move. I've just put it in here right now, and as we get more profiles, this will probably come in more dynamically. But the idea is in PIO.json, we have tool CLI dev, config profiles, and then here we've already started configuring 2 profiles. So you can now go in and start adding arbitrary number of profiles with arbitrary combinations of extensions and whatever you need. And once they're in here, I can go profile list in the Firebug dev system after it's activated, and I'll see BF2 release, BF2 release FirePHP. So the next thing is you want to say run, and you're going to run a profile that actually exists. So we say BF2 release, like so, and then we say launching profile BF2 release. So last part that I was just working on before this call that we can now add in is we're here, launching profile. So now we actually have to launch this profile. So we go to require this service. const Firefox require, like so. And we'll take the Firefox return and look at this pattern here. Open, so Firefox.open, and then the profile config comes from here. And then this is a promise and a fail. Okay, so then we get our profile object back. Now this profile object will eventually allow us to communicate with the Firefox instance. And then once it's done, then we'll call callback. If it fails, we'll call callback, and here we'll just log console.log Firefox done. Okay, and then maybe saying launching profile name with JSON.string default, and we'll show the config as well. There. Okay, and that should be it. So now we can say run profile. Why did I call it BF? FB. FB2 release. Okay, cannot find module Firefox. And let's see if it's actually, maybe I didn't link it or something's wrong. Find in folder. IO-DEVCOM Firefox. Package. I think, yeah, there's still a problem with the install. Okay, so let me just link it manually. So this is just an installation issue I have to fix, but it's easy enough to, let's see, yeah. Source. Oh, the source is there. It's not linking. Okay, well, we'll just fix the include path, and then we can fix this later. Lib, no, source, lib, I think just source will do it. Profile, FB2 preferences. Okay, so now it's provisioning the profile for the first time. Writing Firefox profile, and here it's opening for me. So in this case now it's actually going to stay open until it's done. So I want to open the tracing console. Here it is too. Sorry, the tracing console and the JS console. So they're all open. And then here's Firebug. Great. Cool. So if I can now go Firefox quit, then it says Firefox done. Okay, so now I can go Firefox release FirePHP. Now I haven't tried this, but if this works, then we've got a working system. So here's the tracing console again. Here is, yeah, and it's opening up the FirePHP homepage. And let's see, open Firebug. And there's FirePHP working too.
Nice.
So if we go to NetPanel, enable, console, enable, reload. There's FirePHP working. So that's it.
Cool.
So all that was, it was just here, adding FirePHP as a separate profile and setting the home page. So what we can do now is we can create profiles automatically per test case if we want, or sets of test cases, or however we want to. And in this case, for developing Fire, I would actually recommend that a lot of the FirePHP extensions make it onto this dev system, and we'll just have an extensions group here, and we'll have profiles for different extensions, and the profiles for the extensions, the homepage should point to the profile homepage, to the extension homepage, and then we can link in whatever extensions we need for testing. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's the profile stuff. So this creates profiles, and this does not interact with CFX, but it would be easy enough to overlay this to
Right.
also bring in CFX to build the extension first and then link it in dynamically. So that's the piece I still have to work on. But with the run command right now, you can already run the Firebug Next piece. Um, so I guess the next piece I wanted to go over is tests. So maybe we can run the test that you mentioned is now there for Firebug Next.
Mhm.
Oh, let me just add a git ignore here. Tools dot profiles dot browsers. Okay, so we have add-on SDK. I'll pull the latest. Actually, we're on a different branch. I'll leave that. Firebug Next. Let me pull everything. Master. Okay, so if we go into services, projects, Firebug Next, CFX, that runs things. So should I be able to just run CFX test?
I don't remember exactly the arguments, but I'm just looking at it. CFX test.
Okay. Okay, so there's some error, but it runs, so that's all we're looking for. Um,
Oh, maybe you need to switch into DevTools branch
on the
on the other
SDK,
other SDK. Yes.
yeah, let's see. I think I'm on the correct tree. Um, yeah, I just pulled latest Firebug master, so maybe there's a bug in there, or maybe I need to activate again. Yeah, looks like I need to activate again. Okay, so CFX test. Okay, it still fails, doesn't matter. So what I want to go over is the tests themselves. So Firebug test manual,
Mhm.
no, projects, Firebug test main. Okay, so this is the sample test.
No, no, there should be another test. Yet
Oh,
another file.
wait, let
This
me,
doesn't seem to be the latest.
yeah, let me just refresh.
There should be test-hello world panel. Test file.
There.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so what I wanted to see is how we can bring these tests to the instance. So we have sites, tools, sites, test there. Firebug test manual. So what if we create a new folder called firebug dot test dot firebug.test.dynamic test dot. No, I don't
Okay.
want that there. Um, Firebug website system. Yeah, let's put it there because that's already running there. So, okay, so we can go. Uh, I'm not on my deployed instance. I'm just switching to the other one where I have it deployed. Let's see. Source bin install. Actually, yeah, no, that I'm just not prepared to do this right now. So what I was looking at is what I want to start doing is I want to create a site on firebug.io that is going to start pulling in tests that have been written for Firebug Next. And if we can capture metadata from these tests in some way that we can then present, that would be ideal. So um, whatever metadata we can either add to this file or grab from it, that'll help us organize tests in terms of starting to move towards test coverage and components. So the idea is that in other parts of the dev system, you're going to declare features. Say in the issues, you're going to have a feature for something. You may have a separate repository or a separate folder that may include features. So we want to start capturing these features and all aspects of those features. So issues, source code, and tests. And then if there's tests, whatever metadata we can grab from the tests that would enhance someone's ability to work with the test once they see it in the admin system.
Mhm.
So I don't know what to glean from here that would help right now. A list of subtests, maybe. See, we can easily go in and grab these exports. So we'd have a list of subtests that would run. And then also we want to report the results back. So after we've run a test, we want to capture the environment that the test ran in. So if you're running it on Ubuntu or OS X or whatever, You want to grab the test results, and then we want to post them up to firebug.io for central collection. So anybody running tests on whatever instance can then push their test results back to firebug.io. And that that piece I'll be working on in parallel to some of these other things. So I guess the main point is to keep in mind when writing these tests and libraries and so on that we need to start adding metadata and or be able to correlate tests with the other aspects like the code and like the issues. So do you have an idea for naming conventions yet, or for these tests and panels? Or I see everything is pretty flat still in Firebug Next.
Yes, exactly. There is no structure yet. I'm still waiting for patterns to appear, and then I'll start to
Right.
do structure.
So if we can if the patterns match and any patterns match, then we can automatically pull out those patterns. And wherever the pattern is not sufficient, then we need to start adding metadata. And even if you add metadata in comments at the top of the file in some kind of JSON structure or anything like that, it's enough to pull in and see. So if we have go ahead.
You can take a look at the base panel JS at the top of the list, and there is already metadata structure at the top. Scroll at the top, module.metadata, and this structure could be used.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, so the way I'd like to use this is this JS Stock compatible or?
Yes, should be JS compatible.
Okay.
So maybe it's not now, but should be.
Right. So we're going to have JS Stock running as well. So we'll be able to parse this. And then I guess this metadata includes information about the module and then potentially any other metadata needed to do more in-depth scanning of this file. So if it needs to say, okay, I want to load this and this extra plugin to process this file, then that should be up here as well.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's great. So I guess the next point of order would then be to build a little system that goes through the source files, pulls the stuff out, and starts collecting some of this information. And then we can see where we're going to take this.
Yes, and the same structure can be used for the test as well.
Yeah, I like that. And then we can... So do you think you'll have tests for each module, or do you need more?
Not sure yet.
Probably both per module,
yes.
and then one's covering multiple modules.
Sounds like that, yes. Or maybe it will be feature organized, tests for features. But
so we should break those up. Should we test modules, or test something for lower level functionality, and then test features or test sequences?
Yes, exactly. I mean, there could be unit tests for testing specific APIs and modules.
Yeah.
Or functional or integration tests.
Right.
For testing features.
Exactly. And then those I want to break out in the admin as well. So okay. Yeah. So I guess to see this come together, we need I need to pull out the metadata and bring some of the stuff to the UI as a first step, and then we can iterate on it.
So I guess one of the flags in the metadata object could be the test type. Okay.
Yeah, test type, unless we implied based on the directory.
Right.
So, but yes. So I don't mind implying things as long as we say in the package.json or somewhere else we can configure it. We can say the default type for any test in this directory is X. And this stuff should be in package.json. So in package.json, or a different metadata file, we should start having a config object, and then in config we can start configuring the Firebug Next project, the internals of Firebug Next project, so that when the rest of the dev system wants to interact with it, it goes to the package descriptor and can find all the entry points to then scan this package in more detail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds great.
Yeah, I think that covers it for today, and I need to obviously fix up some of these things that I've been working on, push everything live, and then once the issue tracker is live and we got basic issue viewing, like basic test viewing like this, then we can move forward. All right.
Cool. Cool. Sounds great.
Okay, so do you think we'll need, so I guess the last thing with the profiles is we want to be able to compile CFX and then also load the extension. So we want to be able to load Firebug Next in this way as well. And I'll see if I can hack that in. Okay.
Alrighty, I will take a look at why the CFX test didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were missing arguments to the CFX tool. Like -O was probably missing. I can figure that out.
Did I run test? Oh, that's a lot of output. I'm in the wrong folder, I think. No? What does the -O do? Oh, overload modules. Yeah, if you run -O, the test doesn't run through, it doesn't exit. But, all right. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I'll catch you next week.
Thank you. Talk to you next week.